Hey guys, so clearly the popular thing to do is to make a ban list prediction, so we are not really sure if it's actually going to come before the NAWCQ. Who knows, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but nonetheless, I think it's always fun to do this, and I really look forward to your guys' thoughts in terms of what might actually happen. So let's just get right into it. I guess we'll start with Heavy Storm. This is, I believe, at 1 in the OCG. I do think it will come back to legal status for us as well, just probably not right now. Beatrice, this is an interesting one. So I think this depends. If it comes before the NAWCQ, the list, I don't actually think they would hit it because, you know, they like to kind of let players maximize the really full strength of whatever deck at the time. If it does come after the EU WCQ, essentially all WCQs would be complete at that point, then they would probably ban this because with the Fiendsmith stuff, it just makes it really incredible. And at the very least, if it's not banned now, it will get banned very shortly, like 100%. So let's just put it here for now. So crossout, this is something that actually came up quite a lot in my ban list prediction survey, which I should have mentioned at the beginning of the video. Definitely go check that out in terms of community thoughts on what might happen. This is another one that's essentially like the lines of Call by the Grave, right? It makes going first for like meta decks a lot stronger than, let's say, for rogue decks, and it's just incredibly strong because, you know, when you're trying to hand trap your opponent playing a tier 1 deck, they're already good enough as it is, and for them to actually even stop that as well, and this card also in the mirror becomes incredibly strong, which does, you know, to be fair, provide some pretty unique interaction as well. But I think this is something they could potentially hit as well, and I think anywhere between limit to semi-limit, maybe semi-limit to start, but nonetheless, I think this is a card worth mentioning at the very least. Dryden. Honestly, I think this can come back now. I know they're probably going to be a little hesitant because they already tried to bring it back once and they had to ban it again, which I'm sure they don't like having to do. But I mean, at this point, really, I don't think this is going to cause that much trouble. Fenrir, as much as people wanted this to get hit, and OCG, I believe they banned this actually. I think right now, it's probably still going to stay. I kind of lost hope for them to change this anytime soon. It is something worthwhile hitting to at least 2, but you know what? For the queen, they probably won't. Featherstorm, Flunder has not been doing too well top cut representation wise. I mean, even if they were, I'm not sure if they would ever hit this card, even though they probably should have if they were tier 1. But I think for now, it's just, while it's awful to play against Flunder, you're just not seeing much anyway. So speaking of Flunder though, Shifter, this is an interesting one. I mean, they might do something weird like put it to 2. I think it kind of depends on all the other decks that are going to get hit. For example, right now, essentially, the only really popular deck that's playing Shifter now is Tenpai Dragons. And you know what? I don't think they're going to hit Tenpai Dragons directly. So maybe there are some other indirect hits you can do and put this at 2 as well. And speaking of Tenpai, you know, I know a lot of people, some people were saying, oh, they'll probably hit Sang and Summoning. Right now, I can't see how they would do that. The deck is still very new and they're going to get new support post Infinite Forbidden. And I'm sure they will just leave this at time being. Okay, Snake Eye hits. This gets very messy because I think it really comes down to the lines of, you know, you either ban something like Oak, or you ban Flamberge, or you ban OSS. There's different impact to that, of course. I think you can go with any one direction. It's very hard. I would say, I mean, personally, let's go with the Flamberge being banned instead, with like the, you know, Fire Princess and all that being fine, and same with OSS. But, you know, you could still at the very least limit the wanted Snake Eye Ash, because you do have Fiendsmith stuff to worry about post Infinite Forbidden, and with the new, also the Goddess Link 2 being confirmed, that just means then it's so very easy to access all that. So I don't know. I mean, Snake Eye has been pretty resilient with the ban list. It's not that they've really done anything directly, but I think hopefully we can hit some make some big changes. Runic Fountain, I'd really like it to be actually hit again, especially depending on what other decks you face, or rather you hit. But I think maybe instead they can do something like Tip, at least getting to 2. They're obviously not doing too much changes with Runic stuff because at this point they really should have hit it a little bit more. But if, you know, some Runic stuff can get hit, then perhaps the Maturity stuff can actually start coming back a little bit as well. This is something we sort of saw during tier element format. So perhaps this is something that can come back as well. Misk, I always try to put it at 2. Honestly, at this point, I've kind of given up hope. I'm sure it will come back at some point, maybe at best at 2. Probably not 3 again, unless, you know, maybe a long time from now. But you know what, at this point, I kind of gave up. Time Seal, though, it's like one of those old cards that really isn't going to do anything. So you can put it back to 3. It's at 1 right now. Really, no one's ever going to play that. Summon Sword. This is only coming back because of that errata. It was, I thought it would come back the last list, but they didn't do that, at least in time, and OCG has shown the errata, so we're going to put that there. And same thing with Plush Rata, that also got an errata. So you know what, these are safe to assume that they will come back. Floodgate, so anti-spell, they limited the last time. They did ban Summon Limit though, which does show potential. They will still consider banning the floodgates. I think anti-spell, I mean, it did get reprinted like right after that. That's maybe a reason they didn't ban it right away, but I think this now has to go. The other thing is also with rivalry as well. Any deck that can play rivalry is really like main decking it basically. It also depends on how much Snake Eye is hit, of course. So I think there's other floodgates, like there can be only one goes and match. Those are things that you have to consider, but I think for the time being, at the very least, they can go for cards that are actually a problem right now. And this is definitely something worthwhile. You know what? It's either no change or ban, but I think it is at least worth considering. D-Barrier, as much as I want it to be banned, I think it will probably stay. Also, I should have mentioned with the cross-out hit, that also indirectly hits Tempai Dragons too, when they also, I know they've been trying to like side D-Barrier basically for when they go second, and with D-Barrier not being hit, that also indirectly affects Tempai Dragons as well, if you're not going to hit them directly. Skill Drain, this is another floodgate that, you know, likely it should at least go back to 1. It was at 1 for quite some time, and it was not really fine, but at the very least, you know, understandable. It should not be at 3 though. Diagram is another one that I honestly, who's playing it? So you can just put it back to 3. Same with Pankratops. Was that 2? No one's playing it anymore. There was some replay. I know when I was doing those YCS Top Cup breakdowns, you would see it here and there, but really not that consistent amount of high play. So that's another thing. Pot of Prosperity. I know I've been saying this probably for like a year now at this point. Hopefully it actually gets limited now, because this is another indirect hit to Tempai Dragons. The fact that they can OTK through Prosperity half damage restriction is just a little bit too crazy, and you know what, it just makes the deck really, really consistent. And so this is a card that should get banned, or not, at the very least limited. Honestly, if it gets banned, it wouldn't surprise me either at some point. Calamity should get banned, but until any kind of Centurion Calamity Turbo kind of deck or package actually is a tier 1 threat, I can't see them banning it, because they never really preemptively ban these kind of cards, right? Like you have Azathoth, you have True King of all Calamities, Numeron, Zexal. They've all seen meta play until it got banned, and quite frankly saw meta play for a little bit too longer than it should have. So until that actually happens, unfortunately I don't think Calamity will get hit. Deck Lockdown has been sort of popular here and there as a side deck option. Incredibly strong. Not only does it prevent, you know, both players from adding, but also being able to special summon from the main deck. Is another floodgate. If it becomes too popular, I'm sure they'll at least limit it, considering how much they've been hitting floodgates lately. For now, until it gets popular, I don't think they would actually hit it. And same thing for Super Poly. I think right now it's actually not seeing that much play, even in branded. So for now, I don't think they would put that. But you know what? For debate in the future, I should have mentioned IP when I talked about Flamberge. This was another popular choice that came up in the balanced prediction survey in terms of getting banned. I mean, I feel like it really became a problem with like Flamberge being able to tutor this out along. Of course, you know, SP being legal now is what also makes IP very strong. Could it get banned? Maybe. I mean, personally, I don't think it really would. Although Appaloosa, on the other hand, I do think so. Because they've shown Baron and Savage getting banned. I mean, I get it. Appaloosa perhaps is not nearly as good, because those two are actual Omni Negates. This is just Monster Negate, and you know, you can a lot of times perhaps just like attack over it. I guess unless, you know, exception is like the Yubel deck with their continuous spell, they'll have to attack into Yubel instead. So that kind of gets a little bit iffy, but this is something that I do think it wouldn't be surprising if it does get banned. But also, at least in the most recent next list, I also would not be too surprised if it actually stays alive. And then finally, the Gimmick Lock. So obviously everyone mentions Sanctifier, and I agree. I play this deck. This is probably the best way to go. The other way is some people will say, oh, well, what if you just ban Gimmick Puppet and, you know, you ban maybe even Jowgen? A couple things. I mean, one, I was actually looking through the topping Voices Voiceless. They were actually not even really playing Jowgen anyways if they were on the branded version. The other thing is with Gimmick, I know a lot of people, I see this comments all the time. It kind of gets me a little bit annoyed, because people will say, if you ban Puppet, you know, they'll just go with like DDD Orthros, or let's say something like Ra's Disciple. And I don't think they actually understand how branded works when they make comments like that, because essentially it has to be level 6 or higher Dark or Light to be sent off Granule for that lock to actually be consistent and worth playing. So DDD Orthros, like Ra's Disciple, that's just not going to work anymore. There's no expulsion, like just throw that out the window. So essentially it's going to have to be Sanctifier, because if you ban this, they can go into Idol instead, which, to be fair, I actually don't think it's worth playing that lock at that point if Gimmick does get banned. But I think for future proofing, Sanctifier is probably still the better way to go, unless you somehow try to hit different targets. But again, I think as good as Sanctifier is for branded, I think Gimmick Lock should not exist, and this is probably the best way to go about it. anyways, guys, that was it for my quick little overview in terms of ban list predictions. Definitely let me know what you think it will happen with this list, and also let me know what your thoughts are in terms of, will it come before the NAWCQ or after all the WCQs are complete? What are your thoughts on the current format and etc. And again, definitely go check out that balance prediction survey that I did pretty recently just to see what the community thinks of the upcoming ban list. But anyways, huge thanks to all of you for watching. Big thanks to my patrons and sponsors as always for the continued support, and well, take care, guys.